Friends, this is the message for the fifth Sunday in Lent, and we are continuing to do worship in this way and to give sermons through technology. It is not the most ideal way to connect, but it is the way that we have, and I'm grateful to have that option to connect with you. This week we are focusing on prayer. The sermon series we've been working with is called You Were Made for a Miracle. And this week's message is about activating the power of prayer. Activate the power of prayer. And what that means for us in this time. Last week we spoke about faith, activating the power of faith. And faith is about surrender and letting go. Miracles are about surrender and letting go and letting the flow of God's love go through us into the world. And so today we're looking at this piece of prayer because that's how faith works. We take intentional time to be in prayer, to be in that space where God could do so much work in us, to heal us, to bring us renewal, but also for us to live in the world as those who bring healing to others. And as I thought about prayer and the importance of taking time to reflect, to be centered, today I remind you of the symbols that we have with us, of the light of Christ, of the sand, reminding us of this wilderness journey for each of us, and the cross, which symbolizes Jesus' journey into the wilderness, and then to Jerusalem, and then to the cross. So today, thinking about creating spaces for prayer, for the soul to show up, as Parker Palmer would put it, I thought of one of his books. It's one of my favorite books. It's called Hidden Wholeness. A hidden wholeness is about learning to live as the soul would invite us to live. And so one of the things that he talks about, which is one of our challenges in our culture, is this. In this culture, we know how to create spaces that invite the intellect to show up, to argue its case, to make its point. We know how to create spaces that invite the emotions to show up, to express anger or joy. We know how to create spaces that invite the will to show up, to consolidate effort and energy round a common task. And we surely know how to create spaces that invite the ego to show up, preening itself and claiming its turf. But we seem to know very little about creating spaces that invite the soul to show up, the score of ourselves, our selfhood. So thinking about that and the challenge of creating soul spaces and what that means for each of us when we are looking at prayer. And one of the biggest challenges I know of is the sense of being separate, the illusion of separation from ourselves, from God, from people around us, even from nature. And so the invitation this week is to look at the challenge of the coronavirus and what that has meant for us to move into that space of being in prayer, where we reclaim this original bond that we have with God, with others, with ourselves, with our souls, and with nature and God's creation. In a negative way, the coronavirus has brought us closer to each other and more aware of how one person's behavior could impact a whole community. And in a positive way, in a prayerful way, we can look at this and think, this is an opportunity for us to be aware and to live with that awareness each day. And prayer is intended to enhance that. Now, the Bible story that we're looking at is about Jesus being aware of his connection to God. And in a way, he was a special person in the world. He was, as we believe, that he was the incarnation of God's presence in the world, of God's love. Yet, he didn't take that for granted. He didn't think, okay, I don't need to pray. I'm just here to act and to do things to help others. He could have, but he didn't. He showed us an example of how to live grounded and centered in that awareness. And so this story today is about his busy work, his busy ministry, he started his ministry, and people were gathered, and he was going around different places and teaching and preaching, and he took the time to pray. So it says in Mark 1, verses 32 to 38, the following: That evening at sundown, they brought to him all who were sick or possessed with demons, and the whole city was gathered around the door. The whole city, imagine that. And he cured many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak, because they knew him. In the morning, while it was still very dark, he got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. And Simon and his companions, these are the disciples, they're anxious. They want the busy work to begin. They hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." He answered, "Let us go on to the neighboring towns so that I may proclaim the message there also, for that is what I came out to do." So Jesus didn't escape his mission and his work. He didn't let go of the busyness of everyday life. He didn't go to a secluded place and become a monk. Jesus lived in the world with its pressures, with its demands, but he also knew the value, the importance of being centered, of being grounded in God's love. He didn't take that for granted. He activated the prayer the power of prayer in his life, and what that means for him, and what that meant for the disciples around him to watch him practice that, and what it means for us to know that even Jesus needed that time to center himself, to be grounded in love. And today I want to invite us to think about that for us, for each of us, what it means to live centered, to live in that presence, to live with the awareness of the bond that we share within our souls, with God, with ourselves, with others, with all of creation. And today, the invitation is to reclaim the power of prayer. Now, prayer sometimes becomes this ordeal that people think, "Oh, I don't know how to pray." As a pastor, I often hear that. "But pastor, I don't know how to pray." Or sometimes people think that my prayers are better than their prayers. And it is because we have kind of forgotten that prayer is really a way of life. It is a way of being. It is a way to activate the power of our souls. And I love someone who has written about prayer, and her writing is really powerful in a book called A Praying Congregation. Jane Vennard. She writes about the potential for everything to become prayer. It's about our intention. It is about our way of being. And so she says, "I believe that everything we do that honors, strengthens, or deepens our relationship to God can become a form of prayer. Does this mean that anything we do can become a prayer? Yes, but everything is not automatically a prayer. To fashion our actions into prayers, we need to examine our intention for the activity and God's intention for us. I believe that God intends for us to live according to God's desire that everyone participate in bringing about the reign of God, a world where justice and peace prevail. Therefore, a person swimming as part of her rehabilitation from surgery can turn that action into prayer when she honors God's desire for her wholeness and healing and responds by offering the period of exercise to God." She goes on to give other examples, but I love that anything can become an opportunity for prayer. So get creative. Be intentional. What is your intention when you get up in the morning, when you're breathing every moment, to pay attention to that connection to the eternal love that we have and to God's desire for the world? So it's a combination where it's about our longing to connect, but also God's desire for the world, for goodness. And so take this week to take opportunities of ordinary moments to turn them into prayer. Get creative. That's the whole point of prayer, is to just get out of the box of the mind of where we spend so much of our time and energy, to take the opportunity to allow the divine to dwell freely within your spirit. So I have a few ideas for you, but these are just some thoughts. One is nature. Of course, many of you are rediscovering the power of walking in the neighborhood or going to a park and enjoying nature. Nature has an incredible healing gift for all of us. But listen to the birds. Listen to what God has done through these amazing creatures. Look at the beauty. Behold the beauty. Just watch how creation worships God, and be in awe of those moments. Take time to be quiet in nature. Now, another option is food. Food is something we do every day. We eat, and we sometimes eat without thinking. I'm guilty. Sometimes I want to read something while I'm eating, if I'm alone. So it's easy to use that time to just keep my mind going. But take a moment to breathe. Before you eat, say a prayer. After you eat, be grateful. Enjoy every bite and give thanks for the people who worked hard to prepare, to harvest the land, and to bring the food to your table. Give thanks for the opportunity to have that food, and know that there are people without food and who are struggling with food security. Paying attention is another way to pray. Just let something catch your attention and pay attention to what God is saying to you in that very moment. When something catches your eye or demands your attention, pay attention to those little gifts each day. Pause. The whole state is on pause. Well, maybe you need to do the same for your spirit. Pause from the daily activities, the things that you are doing, to take a moment to behold the sacred. So as I said, there are many different ways of doing that. You could take a deep breath. You could take one of my favorite ways to pause is to breathe deeply. And sometimes I use my knuckles to count to 12 breaths. Deep breathing 12 times just slow you down, especially if you're feeling anxious or worried about the world. Now today I want to practice with you a little prayer, and to help us think about something we're kind of taking for granted, yet also are thinking of a lot these days, and it is our hands. I want you to think about your hands. Now, looking at our hands, we're very aware of how they're touching so many things, including our faces, and try as we might, it is very hard to not do that. Hands have been associated with the virus and with dirt and with spreading the disease. But I want to reclaim our hands this week and help you use your hands to pray. Throughout the generations and centuries, people have known the power of our hands being tools for prayer. You know, you have the posture of prayer being hands folded like this in front of your heart. Different cultures, different religions use many different postures, but hands are essential for prayer. So today I'm going to invite you to settle into your seat, take a deep breath, and become aware of God's presence. Center yourself, let go of any tension in your body, your back straight, but also your shoulders relaxed, your feet planted on the floor. As you breathe, you may want to keep your eyes open and look and behold your hands. Look at your hands. Put them on your lap. You may want to look at them with palms up or palms down or both, whatever works for you. Pay attention without judgment to your hands. Look at your hands and the lines, the scars, the marks. What makes them your hands? Think of the many ways they have served, cleaned, cooked, taken care of others, or helped you do your work. They have typed emails, sent cards, sent texts, helped you navigate new technology. These hands are probably helping you now teach, quilt, knit, sculpt, paint, and produce beauty for the world. These hands may bathe children, feed elders, nurse the ill, work the earth, or organize communities. These hands clasp in prayer, open in release, grasp in connection with others, give generously to others. These hands are God's hands, your hands, our hands. A great mystery of flesh and intention, and a great potential of embodied love. And I want to share with you a blessing of hands in this time of the coronavirus. These are just thoughts that came to me to help us reclaim the power of our hands and how God could use them to serve and love the world. So blessed are the hands that are getting washed so often that they are chapped and hurting. Blessed are the hands that are having to wear gloves to work each day to bring essential services and healing to others. Blessed are the hands that are working on computers to keep the world connected. Blessed are the hands that are doing research to prepare for treatment and vaccines. Blessed are the hands that are working to teach students from far away. Blessed are the hands that are picking up trash and keeping our communities clean and safe. Blessed are the hands that have been farming food to keep the world fed. Blessed are the hands of those who are responding to emergencies. Blessed are the hands that are setting up emergency supplies and shelters for those who are abused or homeless. Blessed are the hands that are longing to greet the stranger, to touch and care, but are kept at a safe distance from others. Blessed are the hands that are working for peace, justice, healing, and compassion in our world today. Blessed are the hands that are praying. Amen.